We share. Oh, take a ride with me.
My name is Gbenedio Fortune. From time I've been into music. I love singing. I love listening to music. I used to like sports, but by the year 1994, I lost interest in football because the way Italy dealt with Nigeria was too bad for me, and I almost went into, I didn't like that experience at all, so I left football. And presently I have groups that I sing with, the chord and Essence vocals. We're into, the chord basically is an a cappella group, all male a cappella group, while the Essence, we're into music. We do songs with musical accompaniment, and also we do a cappella. I have had a good run with good health all my life. I've never been sick for more than 3 days. The only time I remember I was down with malaria way back, I think I was about 6-7 years old. It stretched for about a month. And after that, we had solution to the ailment. And from that time till 2020, I seldom go to the hospital. When I go to the hospital, I take my wife or I take my children to the hospital, and once they are treated and they are okay, we come back home. And around October of 2020, I started noticing some changes in my body. I complained to my wife. I said, I don't know how I'm feeling. I'm not feeling good in myself. And I noticed I was having hemorrhoid. And we started treatment. We treated it and it went. And all of a sudden, by November, December, I started noticing it again.
Nobody could think it's anything offensive or anything bad or anything serious. But not until I noticed that he was getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. Of course, I used to complain about the fact that he was getting too big. He was becoming unnecessarily big, especially on the belly. The belly was too big, and I was like, you have to be exercising.
If you had seen me as at July 2020, I was chubby, I was round, looking.
And he went on this hot water therapy that he was taking, and we thought maybe the hot water therapy that was responsible for making him shrink and all of that, alongside the hemorrhoid.
And so when my wife saw that as at December, every now and then I would go to the hospital, I would check with the doctor would measure my weight. I was noticing that there was a drop, 3 kg, 4 kg, just like that. It was just leaving my system, and she said, no, this time around, we're not just going to treat hemorrhoid anymore. We are going to go for full checkup. So that was how I went to the hospital in January. I was just going, I'll go this week, I'll go the next week, and by February, I went for the last one and I did a scan. And when you did the scan, I did a full blood count too, and the doctors, I never knew that they set an ambush for me, waiting for me to come, because they said they noticed something in my blood. And when they did a scan, they said my spleen was enlarged, my liver was enlarged, and I was like, wow. All this while, I never knew all of these things were happening. So the day I went to pick the result, I just got into the lab and I picked the result. And I just saw a doctor I never knew just asked, has Fortune come to pick his results? They just said, oh, that's Fortune there. He said, Fortune, please wait. I turned and said, is there a problem? He said, no problem, not to make me alarmed. So I was like, okay. He said, we need to talk with you. I said, over what? He said, the result. I said, okay. So they took me to one of their offices. They sat me down. Then I said, where is your wife? I said, why? They said, we need to talk to the two of you together. I said, I hope I don't have HIV. They said, no, it's not HIV. So they said I should call my wife. So I called her. I said, babe, where are you? She said she's just out of class. And I said, please come to the hospital.
When he called me, he was like, babe, are you free? I was like, yeah, I just finished the class. Any problem? He said, no problem. I just want you to come to the hospital so that together we'll come back. We'll come back together. I said, really? Just hope there's nothing serious. He said, no, nothing serious. I just want you to be with me when I will receive the result and all of that. So I left whatever I was doing. I rushed.
As she got into the office, she just sat down and they said, madam, your husband has leukemia. I know I've been hearing of the word leukemia before. I was like, leukemia, what is leukemia?
They call it leukemia, cancer of the blood, but we don't want you to get frightened because we've diagnosed it so early, so it could be handled.
So they started saying, okay, we have two types of leukemia. We have the chronic and we have the acute. And it's like it's like your husband has the chronic leukemia. And that, well, you guys should not be scared, don't be worried. It's the acute that is terminal, but the chronic leukemia can be treated. And that you can go on and live your life till whenever God expects you to live. So we were like, wow. So we left the hospital that day and I went back to the office. I went back with my business, but I noticed that I was getting weaker. The things I was able to do before, I couldn't do anymore. So what happened was, on the 15th of February 2021, I just went to the hospital to check, regular check. I did the full blood count, and lo and behold, I drove down to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, I discovered that to move from the car to the lab was difficult for me. I couldn't walk again. So I struggled to the lab, and from the lab, I struggled back to the car. It never dawned on me that something terrible was happening. And I drove again to the other side for the doctors to interpret what the result was saying. And it was when I got to the other side of the hospital to approach the, what do they call it? I think the GOPD, yeah. That was where I discovered that I couldn't take that normal step to step. It was one of my daughters that saw me, that I came with, that now supported me till we got to the door of the hospital. And when the doctors and nurses saw the way I was, they now rushed out and they brought a wheelchair. I sat on the wheelchair, and that was how, the next thing, I didn't know what was happening. They wheeled me to the emergency, accident and emergency center of the university, and that was how, blam.
He called me later during the day to tell me that, babe, I'm so sorry, I don't know how I'm feeling, but I'm in accident and emergency of the hospital, that is Babcock Teaching Hospital here in Nigeria. And I said, okay, hope no problem. He said, I don't know how I'm feeling, but I'm not good. I rushed, I went to the hospital, I met him on the bed, still sweating. He was always sweating during this period of this illness, always sweating profusely.
The next thing I knew, they put drips in my body, and that was how I stayed in the hospital from the 15th of February till the 25th of February, when I was discharged. But one notable thing was I was still losing weight. There was one day my wife took me out of the bed to go and bathe me because I could not even raise my hand. I was weak. And we got to the hospital, to the waiting room, and I saw my reflection. I want to call it reflection on the mirror in the waiting room. I was like, wow, who is this? Am I this person? And she said, yes. I said, wow. My ribs were showing, my eyes were sunk. All this flesh you are seeing was, my veins were the only things that was showing on my body. I was like, wow. So I'm looking this bad. So that was how I sat down and she baited me. We left that place. But one funny thing that happened within the course of the treatment was I lost my hearing totally.
I was at home. I didn't sleep in the hospital that night because I was a little bit exhausted, and I needed to take care of the children at home too, so they could come to church that Sabbath morning. So Friday evening I went home. So in the morning when I called him to know if there was something special he needed for me to bring, I called him, and whatever I was asking, it wasn't the answer he was giving me. There was no correlation. And I was like, can't you hear what I'm saying? And when he would reply, he would give me something different entirely. So I decided to send a text. So I sent the text and he was replying. But I was asking him, but how come when I was speaking to you, you were not forthcoming, replying me? And he said, sorry, I could not hear what you were saying. To me, it was a shock at first. I was like, how, you could not hear me? How? I didn't say anything to the kids. I got them prepared, I got them ready, and we went to see him in the hospital. So when the kids came to the hospital, they were excited. Oh, Daddy, how are you? We missed you. How was your night? And all of that. And he was just looking at them. He could not reply. He couldn't say anything. Okay, so because I didn't know what to do at that time, I was kind of confused. So I just said, okay, children, you will greet Daddy now. Daddy needs to rest. You will go to church while Daddy will take rest and all of that, you know. So when the children left, it started dawning on me that it's like the hearing is serious, that the hearing loss is serious. It wasn't long when the consultants came to do their ward round, and I was asking the doctors, but he can't hear me. What is happening? What's wrong? And he said, actually, it's one of those things that come with the ailment. It might be loss of hearing, it might be loss of vision.
It got to a point where in the hospital, whenever my wife wants to talk to me, she will type something on WhatsApp, send to me, then I will reply. You know, many of my friends will come, they will be talking to me like this, I'll just be looking at them. I will see their lips moving, but I was not hearing any sound. And the doctors told my wife that once the hearing goes, this is common with the ailment, that the hearing can go and the sight will go also. And once they go, it is irreversible.
But in my mind, I was like, only the counsel of the Lord will stand. I kept on repeating that in my mind. I was like, only the counsel of the Lord will stand. My husband will hear again. He'll be able to sing again, you know. I was saying that in me, you know. So after that, the doctors were like, he will be fine. He will be fine. By the time he's through with his medication, he will just do fine. He will go back to his normal life and all of that. So I was like, amen, amen, you know. And the doctors left. I didn't know how to break the news to my husband. I didn't know how to tell him that the doctors are saying you will not be able to hear again. I wanted to hide it from him, but something else was telling me, what if you hide it from him and God does the miracle? It wouldn't be a miracle anymore. So I prayed about it and I said, Lord, I want to break this news to him. I pray that you prepare him to be able to receive it. So I told him, this is what the doctors said, but God has not said the final. So I want us to trust God and believe what he is saying. But right now, the thing is, the doctors are saying you will not be able to hear again. But God has not given his final word and all of that, you know. So he kind of screamed. He shouted and he was like, I will not hear again. I will not sing again. And he started kind of trying to cry. So I was telling him, you don't need to cry. You are still alive. You can still see. You don't need to worry yourself. And God has the final say. I don't want you to be down. I don't want you to doubt. I don't want you to cry. I don't want you to panic, because God is in charge. He's the creator. He has a spare part. He will take care of you. Don't just worry. I don't know where the strength was coming from, or the words were coming from, but I just decided to trust in God. That is just it.
So when I was discharged, I got home in my weak condition, and I sat down in the parlor. They brought food for me. I ate. In about 2 weeks later, I think I remember precisely, my mom was calling all this while, but since I couldn't hear, so my elder brother will either pick, my wife will either pick, and they will talk with her. And she was always asking after me. So that day, some visitors came. I think that day was a Sunday, and my wife escorted them out to see them off. And the phone started ringing. Lo and behold, it was my mom that was calling. I was like, wow. I called for, who is in the house? Please come and pick this phone. Nobody was coming. So I just picked the phone, and being that the the thing was not working, I just picked the phone, and I just remember that I tapped the speaker, I put it on speakerphone, and I did something like this. I just held it towards my left ear, and I noticed that I heard what she was saying, and we conversed. And after we were done talking, I dropped the phone. When my wife came, it didn't even dawn on me that my left ear had opened. So I just sat down. So we were just in the parlor. When they want to talk to me, they will write, I'll read, I'll respond, So on Monday, they went and left me at home, as the usual practice was then. They left, and I just noticed that I remembered that, but I was able to talk to my mom the other day. Okay, let me try it and see if indeed. So I picked up the phone and I called her. So, hey, what's up? How is your day going? Blah, 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 blah. We talked and we cut the call. And it was when she called me back, I said, really? Did you just call me? Did we actually speak? I said, yes, we spoke. And how come? I said, well, I discovered that yesterday when mom called, I was able to hear her, blah, 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 blah. And from that day to today, this side of my ear is open. Then when we got to the hospital, the doctors were like, wow, this is really a miracle, because from their experience with leukemia, once any of the organs go, once it packs up, it is irreversible. And they said, you should thank God though. Now, chronic leukemia, the technical term is CML, but I don't know what that M is. One thing it does to you is your white blood cells will be multiplying in your body, and as it is multiplying, it will be eating you up. Your flesh would be eaten up. You will become so weak, and it gets to a point where the blood in your body begins to clot. There will be no proper flow of blood, and that is what kills in the disease. So it got to a point, the point where I was admitted in the hospital was what was happening to me. My blood was not flowing anymore in my veins. They were clotting, and blood was not flowing towards my brain. So they had to hydrate me. So as at that time, the normal white blood cell that is supposed to be in a healthy person is supposed to be between 4,000 and 11,000. But as at the time I was in the hospital, my white blood cell count was in 300 and something thousand, and so the doctors were battling to bring it down to normal. And by the time I was discharged, it came down to about 86,000. And so when I got home, when somebody is ill, we have too many people who know a lot about what the person is passing through. So we had a lot of people out of concern, out of love, coming to us to tell us one thing or the other. And they were like, if you go through the vegetarian diet, you see that this thing is cleared in no time. We latched onto that. I started taking vegetarian diet. The doctor told me you need to take less of cooked food and take more of uncooked food. As a matter of fact, the equation that time was 80-20. I wake up in the morning, they will prepare a bowl of salad for me, pear, cabbage, and beautiful colors. I will eat. And I was faithfully taking it. But what we discovered was that despite the effort we were putting in, the white blood cells started going up again. There was a time I went to the hospital to check. That was in March. I checked on a Tuesday. I saw that I had about 300 and something thousand again from 86. And the next day I checked, I saw 307. A week later, I went to check again. I saw 391. That was when I called my wife. I said, babe, it's like we'll have to go back to the hospital to see the doctors and talk with them, because it's like I am going back to how I was as at February 2021. So she said, okay, no problem. Let's look at how everything is going now. So what we did was we went back to the hospital. The doctor said, young man, you have to go back to the medication we gave you before. We have many people who know many things about this thing, but the fact is these drugs will be the ones that would be able to bring your white blood cells down. And when I was in the hospital as of February, I was taking those drugs, but my body was rejecting it. I will vomit till like nothing is happening. I will be retching till I will not have any energy in me. So I was like, okay, if it could bring it down to 86,000 and I'm having about close to 391,000, well, I think 86 is better than 391,000. So that was what we did as at March. The next day, we went to Obafemi Awolowo Teaching Hospital in Osun State, Nigeria, for another check. That's a day interval. What we saw in Ife was 591 as against 391 that we saw in Babcock. And the doctors were looking at me, said, they did something like this for me. I followed their hands with my eyes. They said, so you can talk, you can see, you can hear. What happened? The last time you came here, you were not hearing. I said, doc, now wait, and you are looking better. I was like, me looking better? Because I was still looking really, really emaciated. So they now gave me prescription for the drug. They said I should be taking the drug in the morning, afternoon, and night. That's some set of drugs. So I started it that very day. 4 days later, I noticed that I could not walk. From my knee down became swollen, and I ran to the hospital. That day, I was carried in the house like a baby into the car, and they drove me down to the hospital. So when we got to the hospital, the doctors were like, okay, we're going to observe you. I said, doc, I don't think my body, psychologically, I can lie on this bed again. I don't want to have the experience of February. If there's anything you can do for me, just do it, so that by the evening I will leave and go home. When my wife came, I told her, they said I was going to stay till the following day. She was like, not again. And so she took the kids and they went home. And when they got home, they said, sir, where is daddy? She now told them that they should sit down, that daddy is in the hospital again. They said, no. They started crying. So I talked to the doctor. I said, my family cannot take this trauma. I just need you to tell me what to do to bring down the pain. I'm taking the drugs, and this is just the only problem. So they said, okay, that I can go, but that I should be coming down. But one notable thing we discovered that day I went to the hospital, that is about 4 days after we came back from Osun State, Nigeria, the hospital in Osun State, Nigeria. I did a full blood count again. They discovered that from 591, it dropped to 291,000. That was on a Tuesday. So they said, okay, I should come back to the hospital again on a Friday. So I came on the Friday. I did another full blood count. They discovered that the thing has dropped down to 100 and something thousand. And they said, okay, let's see again on the next Friday. So I went back home and I was taking the drug in the morning, in the afternoon, in the night. They said I should be drinking enough water. I should make sure I eat well. So I was eating and I'm faithfully taking the drug and drinking water. So when it was the Thursday of the week I was supposed to go, the next day, Friday, I got a call from the doctor. I said I should come to the hospital that Friday will not be the date for the test again. So I got to the hospital that day. I entered. They took samples, and as at that time, anytime they tell me, oh yeah, I'll just stretch my hands. The injections were no longer anything for me. So they took their samples and they took it to the lab. So when they came out, they were like, wow, 100 and something thousand. And they were seeing 28,000. I was like, what? 28,000? So they said, okay, I should skip the dose of the drug for the afternoons. I'll just be taking morning and night. So I took morning and night. They said I should come on a Saturday, the next Saturday from that Thursday. So I went on the Saturday and they took sample, and from 28,000, they saw 7.7. That's 7,700 of the white blood cells. So the doctor was like, this is good progress. So they said, okay, to check again, that I should stop taking the drug of the morning and night. I should just stick to one of the drugs that I usually take by 8 o'clock every day. So I said, okay. I went home and I dropped the other ones and I took that one for that day. That was last Saturday evening. I took the other one Sunday and I went back to the hospital again on the Monday. Lo and behold, the doctor said that the thing is going or is gone. They used the term remission, that I should go and get, if it's King Sunny Ade, one of the popular musicians in Nigeria, or another musician, Ayefele in Oyo State, Nigeria, that I should get them. I should throw a party, that this thing is going. After that last test, I noticed a lot of difference in my system. Previously, I sweat a lot. My body is always hot. When people are feeling cold, I'm just there. When my wife will be covering herself with the duvet in the room, I will be on my boxers and I will just be lying down like that. I will just sleep like that. You know, I will not feel cold. There was no sneezing. Everything just stopped. Everything that a normal human being will face when he's cold, it was not affecting me. So it became strange to me, because on the Monday after that test, I discovered that any little thing gets me cold. Any little thing, if I just sit under the fan for too long, I'll get cold. So I started wearing warm clothes. So from that time, that was March of 2021, we just noticed that when we went into this regimen by June, we had all the issues that we were battling with were gone. I started noticing that my wife was like, your body is coming back, or your tummy is coming back, and stuff. And everybody was just like, it's like you are getting back. And I just give all the glory to God for the privilege to be alive, because many people have had not something as serious that I passed through, but they did not even last. As a matter of fact, when I was in the hospital, there was the day I was wheeled into the accident and emergency ward, there was a man that was beside me who, I don't know what happened to him before they moved me to another place. And I've seen somebody that when I was sick, she was sick, she died last year. And lo, I'm still here. You know, there were times when I didn't take my medication serious. I would rather want to do my own thing, but God was merciful to me. He specially kept me, and I give him all the praise, all the glory for what He has done for me. It's been a tough journey. You know, on the spiritual side, when I was down, people came to me with various suggestions. Apart from being that I should do vegetarian diet, somebody actually gave me a call and said, Fortune, I have something I want to tell you. I don't know how you would take it. I said, please go ahead. He said, she took a shop in town and things were not going on well with her shop. And can she call the people she called that did something for her, and they noticed that they planted a charm, so blah, blah, blah. I said, ma, I will get back to you. I will discuss with my family and I will get back to you. I never called her back. Through it all, I just give all the glory to God, that God was able to help me listen to the advice from the doctors. And today, I'm well. Before now, I was not able to drive. I was not able to take care of myself, but I drive now. I do my exercises. I can cook. I love cooking. I take care of myself, though I'm watching what I eat because of the condition that I had then. I have to maintain my health very, very well. Message to everybody is like, trust in God. Do your bit as a human being.
So if you are out there and you are struggling with having a child or a partner or a friend, a sister, a family person that is down in health, it is the time God has given you to be able to be the link to that person, that medium God will use to be able to encourage that person, re-energize that person.
The Bible says faith without works is dead. If you want to get healing, you do your part so that the healing can come. You don't cling to just one part and you think that it can come. God works in mysterious ways and wonders to perform. But the fact is, if you are ill, go for medical advice. And once they advise you and tell you what to do, follow it with prayers and follow it diligently, and God will do the miracle in your life. Indeed, we still have a God in heaven.